Hey, how's it been? I know I'm beyond late for this, but I've been wanting to talk about this Trails in the Sky remake for a while now. I still remember being there, watching that Nintendo Direct live, not having any prior knowledge or expectations in my brain that something like this was going to be revealed during that day, and when it was briefly showcased in the highlight reel, I blew the heck up. And I've been wanting to talk about it ever since, but the thing is, I wanted to wait for more information and footage to surface so I can have a lot more to talk about and dissect to see how Falcom is going to handle this remake. But before we get into that, I gotta say, the reason why the majority of you are probably here is because of this video right here. The fact that I have a video that reached 30,000 people and counting is incredible, and I never even expected anywhere close to this amount of success when I was initially making it. So I gotta say yet again, thank you all so much for your support through that video, it truly means a lot. But speaking on the topic of that video, yeah, it should be no secret how big of a fan I am of the Trail series. Especially in this case, since I'm a huge lover of the original Trails in the Sky First Chapter. I still remember when I was playing Trails in the Sky First Chapter for the first time in 2021, the year after I first bought my PC, and I was taken by complete surprise of how incredible the entire experience was, from its world building, the storyline, the characters, and the gameplay. And I remembered saying to myself, why isn't this game viewed as a video game classic for not just RPGs but video games as a whole by the industry with how amazing this is? But putting that aside, even when Trails in the Sky First Chapter got localized, it didn't really bring a lot of people into this franchise, and in fact you saw a lot more people coming into the series with Cold Steel more than anything because of how much easier that series is to digest visually. And the reasoning for why that is because despite how great Trails in the Sky was, not many people are willing to go back and play a retro style game like this. This game came out when I was 4 years old, guys. It even took me a lot of convincing to really give a game like this a shot. And even then, for those who did want to give Trails in the Sky First Chapter a genuine shot, they only had one option: PC. Cause no one has a PSP these days, and even if they did, they're not picking up their PSP for this. And even taking that into account, not everyone has a PC, and like me, would rather see a game like this on consoles. So putting all of that into perspective, this is why a remake is necessary. Because with this, now the community finally has a potential definitive answer on where to jump into the Trails franchise, and it's on multiple platforms for a wider range of gamers to enjoy. Sorry, Xbox. But as for the remake itself, this game looks amazing. Like, I always thought the Trails Through Daybreak games was one of Falcom's best efforts in regards to visuals, because I believe that was the first time they started utilizing their newest game engine. But artistically, I don't know how they did it, but this game is a step above anything they've ever done so far. This game with its colors and lighting looks so vibrant. All of the characters and their models look so fantastic. And seeing these new official renders of these characters is just so cool. Hello! Sheesh, Falcom, if you wanted my money, all you had to do was ask. They don't call her Bright for nothing, cause she's hot. And graphically, it's not as if this game looks that much better than Daybreak, it's more so the fact that it's clear that the goal of this game from its designers is artistic expression, and they nailed it. And what I thought was awesome is that they had trailers that showcased side-by-side footage of the original game and this remake, and all the environments looked near identical. It's like they took the camera from the original top-down angle and just placed it behind the characters. And something I noticed in the side-by-side showcasings in the trailers is that there's a lack of loading screens in the remake in places where the original game would have loading screens. So it really makes you wonder, how big is this game really? Hey listen, I'm big when it comes to scenery in my media. And another reason why I'm so excited for this game is because of how much I love the city of Ruan. It's still to this day my favorite explorable town in the entire franchise artistically, because I've always been a big fan of locations and towns that has a large emphasis on water and bridges. And I love the music for the city of Ruan. And ever since I played the original Trails in the Sky First Chapter, I always imagined what this town would look like in modern day 3D HD visuals. And once they released the trailer for the city of Ruan showcasing how the town looks in the remake, I had the biggest smile on my face. Now when it comes to the actual gameplay, I had a few concerns. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say concerns, it's more so preferences than anything. And it was me wanting to see the gameplay, while modernized, I wanted to be much more faithful to the original Trails in the Sky games and not emulate what they're doing right now with Trails Through Daybreak. But it looks like they ended up going the Daybreak route. Even though it's not my preferred direction for it, it's not something that'll bother me too much. And it's not as if I have an issue with the hybrid style that they have going on with the Trails Through Daybreak games. It's just me wanting them to stick to mechanics that are much more familiar, if that makes sense. But either way, the gameplay still looks fire here, and I love all of these new dynamic camera angle shots that really hone in the impact of all of these attacks. And I'm really happy that they got most of, if not practically all of the English voice actors of these characters to reprise their roles. Gee, if only a certain other franchise would learn to do the same thing. But anyway, the music in the remake sounds awesome too. Now, a point that I want to bring up is that Falcom confirmed that their new script for this remake is going to honor the Japanese script of the original Trails in the Sky. And I'm really relieved by this, because if there's one major concern that I did have, which goes back to why I called this a potential definitive game earlier, is how they were going to go about telling the story for this generation. Because for me, I want a one-to-one faithful remake that tells the same exact story as I remember, but with maybe new added bells and whistles that add to the narrative and not change it. Essentially, I want less reimaginings like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it gives you the illusion that you're playing the same exact adventure, but in all reality you're just playing an alternate version, and more legit faithful remakes like Trials of Mana, where it's from the ground up a faithful recreation of the original game but with modern visuals. But the fact that we are getting a faithful recreation of the story for this remake does make me really happy, and puts practically all of my major worries for this game at ease. But to speak on that point more, hearing this now makes me think about this one specific thing. The original Trails in the Sky first chapter ends in one of the harshest, jaw-droppingly shocking cliffhangers ever. So shocking that as soon as what happened transpired on my screen with the game ending, I clicked on the buy button on the sequel at the speed of sound, because I just had to know what was going to happen next. And if this remake ends in the same way I think it will, just like in the original game, I gotta ask the question: are fans willing to wait 2 to 3 years for the inevitable Trails in the Sky second chapter remake to find out what happens next, when you can just play the original trilogy and get the full story there? I know this sort of concept isn't exactly new in regards to remakes like this, but at the same time, it's still very interesting to see how things will transpire among newcomers. Which again, this is all assuming that this remake does end in the exact same way as the original Trails in the Sky did. But other than that, that's pretty much everything off my book. Overall, I'm really excited for this remake, and I would love to review it when it comes out. But we also gotta acknowledge how great of a position the Trails franchise is in, since we were not only going to get this remake, but we were also initially going to get 3 Trails games in 1 year. 4 if you want to count the Ys vs Trails in the Sky fighting game. That is nuts, but makes me very happy as a fan seeing how far this series has come from the very first time the original game was localized back in 2011. So anyway, share your thoughts down below if you're excited for this game or not, because now that I've finally gotten to play Atelier Yumiya and the PC version of Stellar Blade, Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake is now the biggest title that I'm looking forward to this year. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and have yourselves a good day. Laters.